Hello and welcome to Lake, a show highlighting our beautiful city of Bellevue. I'm your host, Robin Steele. Today we're coming to you from the newest neighborhood springing up in Bellevue, and it's aptly named the Spring District. On today's show, we're sharing some great information. Join us on the grand roll-through opening of the new Spring Boulevard. We'll show you some important work of the Bellevue Utilities Department. And a Bellevue Park Ranger will take you on a tour of some of Bellevue's beautiful legacy trees. We start today with a look at the new grand opening roll-through of the new NE Spring Blvd. The roadway opened in October with a social distance celebration. Special guests Mayor Lynn Robinson, Councilmember Zahn, State Representatives Vandana Slatter, and Amy Wallen were all on hand to mark the occasion. The new Spring Boulevard stretches from just east of 116th Avenue Northeast to 124th Avenue Northeast and will later be extended to 132nd Avenue Northeast. Its multimodal design features a multi-lane roadway, bike paths, and sidewalks. The bridges were built to accommodate light rail tracks that lead to the Spring District 120th Street station and to Sound Transit's maintenance facility. Spring Boulevard will serve as the main east-west connector between downtown and Belle Red, two of the city's fastest-growing commercial and residential areas. This new roadway is a wonderful new connection, and you can see the great work of the Transportation Department and others. Now we want to show you some work that the city does that isn't quite as visible. Every time you turn your water on or flush your toilet, you probably don't think about the systems that make these things possible. But next, Jay Hummel of the Bellevue Utilities Department provides an overview of the complex infrastructure that helps the city provide these critical services every day.
The work that we do in utilities is important for everybody that lives in the city. From having safe drinking water, having reliable water to fight fires, and to have proper waste collection systems. Those add to our health, our safety, and our quality of life. That's why we need to invest the money that we do within our utility system to replace aging infrastructure that's wearing out or that could have problems down the road, or for the growth that we have. Between the water, wastewater, and the storm and surface water systems, there's over 1,500 miles of pipeline. Within the water system alone, there's over 600 miles. That's as long as running a pipeline from Seattle to Idaho and back. We have 24 reservoirs with a total storage volume of over 40 million gallons. Our sewer system has over 500 miles of pipeline and 22 pump stations. Our storm and surface water system has over 400 miles of pipe and over 80 miles of streams. So Bellevue's infrastructure between all the components of the water, sewer, and stormwater system amounts to about a $3.5 billion worth of assets. So Bellevue's infrastructure system is quite old in a lot of ways. For example, much of the water system was built in the 50s and 60s. And so currently there's a program now to replace these aging water main pipes that are approaching 60, 70 years old or more. Well, now that those pipes are nearing the end of their useful life, and so there's a program to replace up to 5 miles of water main pipe every year. So the Capital Investment Program, or CIP as we call it, we look at a 7-year horizon from a planning standpoint to know what priorities we need to look at year by year over that 7-year period. There are some key areas that our projects fall into. These areas include renewing and replacing aging infrastructure, adding system capacity to support growth, protecting and preserving our environment, meeting legal mandates, and, last but not least, improving and enhancing our customer service. So currently there are several CIP construction projects in progress around the city. So behind me is the Cherry Crest pump station. It's a new pump station replacing an existing one that's been in place for 40 years or more. And so it's a replacing aging infrastructure CIP project. So within our system, pump stations are needed because of the hills everywhere. There needs to be a means to get water up the hill. Reservoirs are typically up on hills. So a pump station provides the means to pump water up the hill. So another example of a project around town on the wastewater side is what's called the Mid Lakes Sewer Pump Station, which is located over just north of Bellevue Road, nearing the end of its useful life. So our wastewater CIP also has a program that looks for defects and makes repairs in the sewer pipelines. Prior to doing the actual work, though, there's an evaluation on the pipelines to determine which locations need to be repaired or replaced, and our sewer maintenance team goes out to these locations and inspects the pipelines with video cameras. And that information helps us prioritize what repairs need to be made and when. It could be a replacement of that section of pipe, or it could be relining the pipe with a liner that extends the life of the existing pipe. So within Bellevue Utilities Storm and Surface Water CIP, there have been a number of projects that have been constructed over the years. More recently, there's been a series of bridges built in the Newport Shores neighborhood. These series of projects has helped reduce flooding within that neighborhood with undersized culverts. And by putting in bridges instead of pipes, it's not only solved the flooding problem, but also has enhanced fish passage. So our utility system, although much of it is invisible, it's a very complicated system, being underground, a vast network of pipes, pump stations, reservoirs, etc. And we work constantly to keep that system running properly for our health and our safety and for our enjoyment.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, we're coming to you today from Bellevue's newest neighborhood, the Spring District. And next, Bellevue Park Ranger Curtis Kukal is going to show you some of the city's oldest residents, some spectacular old-growth legacy trees.
Good morning. I'm Ranger Curtis Kukal with Bellevue Parks and Community Services. Thank you for joining me today at Weona Park. Today I'd like to talk to you about a biological and cultural treasure, old growth legacy trees. Prior to European settlement, the forests in what would become Bellevue were dominated by old growth conifers. Peaking around the turn of the 19th century, almost all these forests were clear-cut for market. But if you know where to look and what to look for, you can still find a few old-growth trees scattered around the city. These trees survived both logging and the intervening disturbances of the past 100 years. We call these survivors legacy trees. Weona Park is one of the best locations in Bellevue to find old growth. The overwhelming majority of trees in Bellevue are not old growth. By and large, they're the trees that grew up following logging. Finding a legacy tree like this one is very special and shouldn't be expected with every visit to a park. But if these trees were so desirable to loggers, why were any left behind? By and large, these trees had what they considered to be defects in the lower portion of the tree, like long bends. Some of these trees were found in inaccessible locations, like steep hillsides. Identifying legacy trees isn't as simple as just looking at the size of the tree. Old growth trees exhibit certain growth characteristics, and that's what we need to look for. Almost all of the legacy trees in Bellevue are Douglas fir, so that's the species we'll focus on. Younger Douglas fir trees have hard and bony bark with shallow fissures at the lower part of the tree. Old growth trees have bark that is soft and flaky with deep fissures. Sometimes the bark shows charcoal. Young Douglas firs exhibit pinwheel or whorled branching. On legacy trees, there are few or no branches visible in the lower part of the tree. These branches were shaded out and rotted away. Even the branch scars are gone. Old growth Douglas firs often exhibit large or gnarly epicormic branching. These branches grow in all directions to catch the light that begins to become available when neighboring trees die. Finally, since very old trees usually don't grow much in height, existing branches can grow very large, even higher up in the tree. In contrast, younger trees will have many smaller and dainty branches, often still showing that characteristic pinwheel growth form. Bellevue's legacy trees are cultural treasures. Even individual old-growth trees can be very valuable to wildlife species like bats and swifts. These trees are a tangible connection to a vastly different time for our forests. Please, help us protect them by staying on trails, which avoids trampling their root systems. Make sure to be careful with anything that can start a wildfire, like cigarettes or barbecues, and never carve into tree bark or pull it off. Finally, if you want to learn more about old-growth forests in Washington State or Bellevue's Forest Management Program, please check out the links below. I hope you can get out into the Bellevue Park system and find some of these amazing trees for yourself. Happy trails!
That's all for us today. We thank you for joining us, and we hope you find some time this fall to get outside and enjoy some of the beautiful legacy trees we highlighted today. If you have any feedback or questions for us, please email us anytime at btv@bellevuewa.gov. Also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with our latest video news and information. I'm Robin Steele. Thanks for watching Lake to Lake.